and Netflix said blink and you'll miss it. Movies for 17 days in theaters is wild. Yeah, I had this on my list as well as a possible take for you because
Ah, nice.
Netflix is really going to be changing. They can make a big impact in the movie industry with this take,
Mhm.
and if they really do hold up to movies just 17 days in the theater, it's going to be wild because it could honestly kill the movie industry because Netflix, who are they trying to buy? Is it
Warner Bros.
Warner Brothers? So Warner Brothers already makes quite a few movies, so and if they buy Warner Brothers, they're gonna get into this some sort of monopoly of all these movie companies because they'll start having the funds that they'll start buying whatever movie companies are willing to sell and that are struggling, some of these smaller movie companies that make amazing movies and just like I say, not put them in theaters for so long. You could look at it both ways. There are pros to it, there are cons to it. For me, I see it as a con because I enjoy going to the movies. I enjoy going to that movie theater experience. One of the most recent ones, I think that Netflix did pretty well, which I thought was awesome. The Stranger Things finale. Saw that in theaters, on what was it, Wednesday. Great experience, and that's why we go to the movies for those type of experiences for movies. Um, and only having 17 days before they probably put it on in streaming is just insane. Where normally you have to wait 2 to 3 months when a movie releases to come out into a theater. So, like I say, you're not gonna miss the movie at all because, like I say, eventually it's gonna come out. You'll probably see it a lot sooner than you normally would on demand, on streaming, wherever it is. But, having that movie theater experience is gonna probably kill some of these movie theaters, and I think we're gonna start seeing less and less of them.
Yeah, for sure. And I just feel like movie theaters, ever since COVID happened, are just that entity that has like two black eyes and just totally beaten up, shirt
Hmm.
ripped, and they're still like hobbling through it all. And I
Hmm.
feel like they've had rebound after rebound. Theaters, I feel like, especially, this past week for us Californians, pretty much everywhere is getting hammered by rain.
Hmm.
And New Year's traditionally is always packed, and this
Yeah.
year was just like every other year. It was packed. Drove by a couple different theaters, and they were just loaded to the brim with
Hmm.
cars. So that was really cool to see. I remember that having worked at a movie theater way back when, and New Year's always seemed busier than even like Christmas or Thanksgiving was. And
Yeah.
it's definitely a busy time of year. But I feel like this is kind of that next like little gut punch,
Hmm.
with where Netflix is going with the purchase of Warner Bros. And of course, it's to get movies faster onto their streaming platform
Hmm.
and, have that experience there for, all the monthly subscribers. But, I just there I kind of see both sides. I don't
Hmm.
go to the theaters as often. I wish I did because I do enjoy the movie theater
Hmm.
experience. Just with the young kiddos, it's tough to get out sometimes. But if we do go, it's always a pretty enjoyable experience in my opinion. Like,
Hmm.
it's you get your popcorn, kids are happy, you get candy. We all sit down, enjoy whatever movie we're going to go see because it's all something that we're
Yeah.
excited to go watch and take the time to go do it. But that extra window, like from what I researched, movies are typically there for at least 4 weeks in a
Hmm.
theater. And then, sometimes up to 6 to 8 weeks I've
Yeah.
seen. And that extra time can help a lot of people, whether it's, crazy schedule, you're out of town, you don't have time, it
Hmm.
gives you that window. Or if you quite frankly just don't want care to go to like a pack theater and like,
Yeah.
oh, I'll watch it in a couple weeks when, the audience dies down a bit.
Hmm.
That's very common to do as well. But it's just one of those things where that seems a little bit better to have it
Hmm.
go a little bit longer. The other side of it is, if I can't make it to a theater very often,
Yeah.
17 days is a quick turnaround time to expect it on streaming, which is also pretty cool.
Yeah.
Um, but again, it's however you view it. If you're a frequent moviegoer and
Hmm.
you like to hit up the theater, it's quite frankly, it's kind of a bummer that, it's not quite enough time. But this is where we're going. If we're gonna see more platforms begin to buy out,
Hmm.
certain movie rights, we're gonna see it all too often. I don't know. I guess we'll see how movie theater companies decide to combat that.
Yeah, we'll see how they combat it because it's gonna be a tough one, and if it actually goes into effect, like I say, it's only Netflix right now. All the other big movie, studios are gonna continue doing what they normally do, but if this trend of what Netflix does is successful and it's sort of bringing a profit to their pockets, because that's what this all is, I think, for Netflix, is doing that for 17 days, because I think the 17 days also makes all those movies Oscar, Golden Globe eligible, you know. So, they
Hmm.
have to have it in theaters for a bit for it to be eligible for, award season that we're currently in. So we'll see how that type of effect does it, but like you mentioned, and I see it the same both ways. I see it good, I see it bad. Good because yeah, if I can't make it to the theater, it's a movie I want to see, but I just don't have the time with the kiddo now. Like it'd be cool to see it, but I also see it the other way where the experience seeing it in a movie theater, some films are just so much greater, Avengers Endgame. Seeing that in theaters, you can't compare it to anything else. No matter how many times you see it at your home, it doesn't meet that same experience that you did in the movie theater, and the only way you could experience it is if you pretty much have a movie theater in your home, which it's probably only 0.1% of the population that could probably afford to do that in their home, have a full on movie theater. You have to be like one of these, Michael Bay, have a movie theater in your house type thing. So we'll see where it goes, but it's just it's not surprising, but it's unfortunate, for the movie theaters. Like I say, well, I think if they're successful, Netflix does this, they're successful, they're making money, and all these other studios see it, they're gonna try to go in the same route because like in the end, they're about making money. They're about making great movies, but the bottom line is what they get into their pockets.
Absolutely. Yeah, and people are kind of bringing up some other films that are due to come out by Warner Bros. I guess, Minecraft, Godzilla, Kong, Supernova,
Hmm.
Man of Tomorrow. People are saying that this is gonna kind of cook them, I guess, based off of,
Hmm.
their theatrical release and only having 70 days in theaters. How is this gonna, affect ratings,
Hmm.
considerations for awards, like you've already mentioned? All of that has to really be brought into mind.
Hmm.
So that's another thing to think about. Other people, you brought it up too, like the theatrical experience for certain movies is second to none unless you have bonkers money and
Hmm.
just have a casual movie theater in your house like you said.
Right.
That's killer. It doesn't really matter to you, but like, people who go there and seek that audience reaction to certain things, it's like, you're not you can have that in your house,
Mm.
sure, but it's like you're not feeding off of other people's energy necessarily.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's kind of a letdown. Yeah, it's in, and I'm curious because, like Disney, for example, I think that they've been a pretty big advocate of theater releases, keeping their movies in
Hmm.
theaters, things like that. I guess they'll kind of go head to head, I guess, with Warner Bros. And Netflix, and the rivalry kind of gets stronger, right?
Yeah, I think it will. Disney during COVID, they sort of did go this route because of the movie theater shutdown. I don't know if you remember.
Yep.
I think it was Black Widow, pretty much in the
Yeah.
theater for like a week and then released straight to streaming. A
I
lot
think Mulan
of
as well, right? Live action Mulan.
Mulan as well, and they did it because of COVID. It was very limited seats that you could get at the theaters. There had to be spaces in between your party, so it sort of cut down that movie theater experience. But I think for them there was a lot of backlash from the stars because, like I say, it doesn't just affect, you know, the movie theater, it affects the movie stars because sometimes they make money based off how it performs in the box office. So now they're gonna have to start working on their contracts and figuring out, okay, if you're only releasing it 14 days, my expectations can't be the same as before because the movie's not out in theaters for 2 months. It's only out for 2 weeks. I'm losing
Yep.
6 weeks of possible, net profit, based off how it does. So we'll see. But yeah,
Yeah.
unless you have the Uber money to buy a movie theater and just experience it on your own and just play movies, it's hard because like even like Oppenheimer, Inception, great movies to watch at home with a great sound system. Even, if you have an 80-inch TV, it's still amazing. But compared to the big screen with others that are so passionate about the movie and just that sound system, which is, high class for compared to home sound systems, it's just a whole different experience. So, like I said, you'll never be able to get that
Mhm.
experience in your home compared to theaters.
For sure. Yeah. And then I guess a couple other things kind of come to mind for me too is do you think this will be kind of like two questions for you, John,
Hmm.
since you're our movie mastermind here on the pod, as I always say. Do you think we'll see a lot more movie re-releases into theaters, kind of like re-screenings,
I
if this is comes to fruition?
I think so. I think it'll happen a lot more, especially like during anniversaries, like a 5-year anniversary, 10-year anniversary. We'll see it
Hmm.
more, Christopher Nolan, maybe every time one of his movie comes out, he'll play one of his old classic, hit movies that are great in theaters once a week. One week it's gonna be like Inception, the next week Oppenheimer, then the Dark Knight
Hmm.
trilogy, just to sort of bring it back and get them ready for, the Odyssey next. I could see it a lot more, because like I say, they're gonna have to find specific ways, and I think one thing movie theaters may do to sort of be able to make some of the money back if this does take in full effect for multiple movie studios is bringing like live events back to movie theaters. I don't know. Yeah, I think when you were working at a movie co, um,
Hmm.
they were having like UFC fights, boxing events, at the movie theater, showing
Yeah,
it on the big screen. So I think that sort of stopped. I think it sort of brings a Cosm type look to the movie theaters, where you could go watch a live event, have the snacks, have the seat, and have it on the big screen with other people enjoying the game. It might be one of the routes they have to take if this is going to take into effect and it's going to affect their bottom line.
for sure. Yeah, no, the tap out shirts were on full effect during that time of,
Yeah.
all the UFC fights.
Yeah.
That was the heyday like 15 years ago, with everybody
Yeah.
wearing a damn tap out shirt. But yeah, no, those were good times. I remember they also had movie trivia nights,
Hmm.
during the week, and that was actually really popular as well. Not
Yeah.
necessarily like a screening thing, but at least people got them into a theater,
Hmm.
because the particular theater we're discussing is, I believe it's now an AMC,
Yeah.
but it also has a restaurant attached to it, so that was pretty cool. I don't know if that restaurant is even still operable. I haven't been
I,
in there
I
in
don't I don't think
ages,
it
but
is.
yeah, no, I doubt
No.
it. No, it's been a long time.
Yeah.
But that was always pretty cool. But little things like that, I guess, kind of got people through the door. Um, and then another thing was, and I don't know like the total background to a lot of this, whether there's contracts, things like that. But do you think Warner Bros. Could take a big hit with this, like, or I guess Netflix now could take a big hit with this, and maybe movie theaters won't carry Warner Bros. Films because of a shortened deadline, like a date?
Possibly. I don't know the logistics of if a theater can refuse to play a movie. Um,
Okay.
it will all just sort of depend. Like I say, if all movie theaters sort of get together and they'll be like, we're not playing Netflix or Warner Brother movies because of this, they're gonna have to change their mind because, like I say, going straight to streaming, they'll still make money, but they're losing a lot of that prestige. And Then I think where it sort of hits the most is going to be directors, producers, these filmmakers not even though Warner Brothers Netflix is willing to give them $10 million to make a movie, they're not going to go there because they know this movie that could be a great award season movie isn't going to go in theaters and isn't going to qualify for award season. They're going to be like, no, I'm going to take 7 million from, Universal because I know at least I'll be in the theaters and I have a chance to make it to award season and I'll deal with the 7 million.
That makes sense. Yeah. No, I could definitely see that happening just to be up for the awards. Yeah, no, I guess we'll see where that goes, but definitely thought-provoking,
Yeah.
pretty big news. There's been a lot of I'd say more like negative reaction to something like this. Like it's
Hmm.
definitely gonna hurt because people do genuinely still really enjoy the theater experience.
Yeah.
That's why I think it was super popular for people to go watch, the finale of Stranger Things in
Hmm.
theaters. I heard it was a ton of fun. Haven't finished it all. Shame on me. I've
I
been
know.
watching it in bits and pieces. I'm still hanging on to like 50 minutes. But no, it's great. It's been great in my
Yeah.
own theatrical mind.
Yeah, no, like I say, if you look at reactions of how Stranger Things did in the theater, it's a good way for some of these TV shows maybe to do their series finale, on the big screen because like I say, it was a big hit, I think. Um, the reactions, it's all those people invested in the show, and when something happens, how dedicated people were. It it's funny, but at the same time, it's amazing because, like I say, with Stranger Things, I was there. Some of the scenes at the beginning, when something happened, everybody in the movie theater was like on their edge. You could see them moving, you could see them yelling characters'
Damn.
names, pissed off, whatever it was. And it sort of, like I say, it brings me back the last time I really felt something like that in a movie, or one of the last two. One was during Weapons, when I saw Weapons at the end scene
Okay.
when they were chasing
Yep.
the ant and the kids finally got her.
Oh,
Everybody was
yeah.
cheering, and it was just funny because, like I said, that's the type of experience you go to movies for some of these.
Yeah.
But the last big one, Avengers Endgame, when Captain America, gets the hammer, you know, the Falcon calls out, on your left, and all the characters come out, like how that reaction of all theaters were happening. Even if you went 2 weeks later, the reaction was still the same. How excited people were.
Yeah.
So it's like that's what that movie theater experience brings. It brings that same experience at home, but not at quite as much.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, those were I agree. Really good reactions.
Mhm.
With Avengers, but Weapons, I can definitely see why also. That was hell of an ending.
Yeah.
Um, Another thing, my final thing on this is, I always enjoyed like when I was working at the theater watching like I think there was one Star Wars release when I was working there, as well as Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings, if I remember
Hmm.
right, and just everybody dressed like they were in the movie.
Hmm.
And it was just like, even looking back, you can look back at like old clips of Star Wars
Yeah.
Episode 1, people like having lightsaber battles.
Yeah. Hmm.
It's
Uh-huh.
people got
Yeah.
really into it. And that's just the theater experience though. And
Hmm.
I think that's what I think a lot of people, even if you don't participate, to that extent, I just think
Yeah.
witnessing it and being around it is fun.
Yeah, no, I think that's what's so great about that as well as the theater experience because yeah, there's a lot of people that cosplay, a lot of people that dress up, but even just wearing a shirt, that's usually what I do. I just wear a t-shirt. I have a lot of these movie
Mhm.
t-shirts, game t-shirts, so I wear them when I go. Um, but yeah, it's cool because like I say, with Stranger Things, everybody either had like a Hawkins, the green Hawkins, like high school jersey, the
Hmm.
Hellfire Club
WSK.
t-shirt, the
Uh-huh.
the Squawk shirt, people dressed up as 11, all these things. So I was like, it makes it fun because like I say, it's people that really appreciate the movie and aren't gonna really positive to it because there's been a few movies I can't remember off the top of my head what it was, and it was funny because like I say, I react to it very minimally just because it's just the way I am. But Vera gets very emotional into it, and there was one movie that you know how sometimes at the end of a movie when it's a really good movie that everybody likes, people clap like cheering for it.
Oh yeah.
I
Hmm.
forget what movie it was, but nobody clapped, and Vera was a little disappointed. She's like, "That's not the movie experience I wanted." And it's like, sometimes that happens. The people that are in there aren't as committed or as invested into that movie as others are. So, finding that group
Yeah.
of people that are invested, I think this will sort of help weed out those people that are really invested in movies and those that just go for the clout, for the hype, just to sort of do their movie reviews and get paid for it and not really care about the movie.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. It's like bandwagon fans at sporting events,
Hmm.
It's there for the experience, but not really invested in the team.
Yeah, yeah.
Ah,
So
we all get that, you
yeah.
know?
Yeah, but we'll see. But yeah, Netflix. I thought it was crazy that they're going this route, and we'll see if they officially go this route when their first movie comes out this new year. And we'll see if it changes anything in the industry. But I think it'll take a few years for it to change after seeing what the return of investment is for them.
For sure. No, agreed. Yeah, we'll see where it takes us.
Yeah.